This is one of the most dramatic and significant moments of the entire play, Romeo's first sight of Juliet. Shakespeare uses the Renaissance theatrical convention of the aside for Romeo to voice his thoughts. "O she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear." There's an enormous amount going on in this short four-line quotation. First of all, yes, quite obvious, Juliet is associated with images of light. "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright." Note the exclamation there. Then on to the next line. "It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear." Now, first of all, yes, there is more celestial imagery further elevating Juliet. Hangs upon the cheek of night. It's implied that she's compared, of course, to a star here. The simile, "as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear," further emphasizes this contrast. So a rich jewel, something very rich, exotic, and in an Ethiop's ear. I mean, first of all, there's that literal comparison, a bright jewel on the ear of someone with very dark skin, but Ethiop, an Ethiopian, someone very exotic, not what you would expect to find in Verona. But this image is also rather lovely. She hangs upon the cheek of night. That's very gentle, very intimate, this personification of night. So we have then this succession of rich, varied images building upon a range of concepts and ideas, emphasizing Romeo's true love at first sight. Another point about this intimacy, the cheek of night. Now, celestial imagery, comparing lovers to the sun and stars, etc. Perhaps if you just had celestial imagery and nothing else, that would maybe imply that the subject is unattainable. However, the intimacy of this image hanging upon the cheek of night can be seen to reflect the very real nature of their love. It becomes a physical relationship, unlike the very one-sided worship of the woman that's implied with how Romeo speaks of Rosaline. In fact, these three lines altogether, with the richness and variety of the imagery, contrast strongly with the sort of language, you'll remember, he used to describe his love for Rosaline. Remember that succession of pretty rubbish oxymorons, feather of lead and so on. Very uninventive, unremarkable, as if he had swallowed a book of rubbish love poetry. And here we've actually got something that's linguistically very beautiful and complex. Of course, it's Romeo and Juliet, and so we've got to have the theme of fate rearing its ugly head at some point. And so we get that here. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. Ominously, we know that this will sadly prove true. So it's a bittersweet moment. Of course, Romeo does not know that this will prove true, but it still is reminding us of this tragic side to the play. A point about this extract as a whole, note the rhyming couplets. Shakespeare only uses rhyming couplets when he wants to draw attention to something, and so this is creating contrast with earlier in the scene. Remember Capulet's party, which opens in prose. Why is there contrast? Because this is a very important moment. And even more contrast, a point about 1.5 as a whole. Remember the mood changes throughout this scene. Yes, here they are. So starting with old Capulet being very jovial, very jolly, welcoming everyone to the party. Romeo, the love at first sight, very romantic, positive atmosphere. Then Tybalt notices Romeo there, and we are reminded of the sense of violence and threat. This by his voice should be a Montague, fetch me my rapier, boy. So you remember that instinctive reaction to the sight of his enemy is to call for his sword, emphasising the extent to which the conflict is permeating everyday life and the violent undertones. I think I'll stop now because we've been talking about this for 5.5 minutes. But that should hopefully remind you of just how much we can get from this very short passage.